Hey guys, Professor Bill, Comic Book University, and Namor, the Submariner, Conquered Shores, issue number 4 of 5. Okay, it's 5 issues. The next issue is going to be concluded. Soul of the Machine is the name of this issue, and holy crap, this was an amazing issue of a comic book, man. I don't know how you, I've picked so many different things, man. I picked through so many different things, and I figured out so much of this comic book. But I'm officially at a blank right now. I don't exactly know how this ends. And I love that. I hope that it lives up to my expectations. In the meantime, this comic book was amazing. Let's talk about it. First, credit where credit's due. Christopher Cantwell is the writer. Pascal Ferry is on art. Matt Hollingsworth is on color art. And Ferry and Hollingsworth also did the cover. VC's Joe Caramagna on letters. And bang. Oh, I don't even see any variant covers on this one. That's a shame. Guys, I hope that more people are actually buying this comic book because it is a series unlike almost anything else that's coming out nowadays. I mean, there's just so much amazingness packed into these 5 issues. I'm shocked. Well, these 4 issues at the very least. We left off with Torch and Namor arguing. I mean, when you honestly sit back and think about it, these two old men, neither are men. You got an Atlantean, half human, half Atlantean, and an android, which is half human, half robot. And these are the first 2 original characters in the Marvel Universe. And here it is. They're 2 of the last ones. Yeah. Oh, wow, man. And it's almost like we're counting backwards. It's almost like that. These guys are arguing, they're fighting, they actually get into a fist fight with each other, and then they decide, you know what? Let's try and figure things out. Look, we're not the enemy. Us androids, we're not. Us robots. So let me actually show you. And they take them to the Arctic Circle and show them their civilization. It's not a hideout. It's not a colony. Namor points out, that is a civilization. They've got a huge thing. And they're like, there's so many of you here, and you guys are doing so well. We've got to come together. We've got to find some kind of a way to come together and actually rebuild after what the Kree did to us. They are the common enemy, right? And it seems like Captain America and Eudora have figured this out more than anything else because Cap pointed out, we had a common enemy back in the day. Eudora's talking to him, and I think she's younger, but she definitely acts as the younger generation, while Captain America is the older generation, that 50s, that 40s, that, greatest generation type character. So 40s. I'm telling you right now, man, like he holds his own. There's going to be some people who, I'm a strong believer in what America, what the Constitution stands for, not what politicians do. F politicians. They ruin everything and lawyers help them. But I will say this. America stands for something so much bigger than anything that any single one of these politicians believe in and surely fight for. They believe in, well, like I said here, not just hope, but a belief in the future and also holding on to the present and making sure that we have what we can have. Now, it would have been great if he also pointed out the idea that equality and opportunity exist in America more so than any other place in the world. But I get it. Not something most people will believe nowadays, but it is what it is. Steve was, well, some people may question, like, well, how come Steve didn't just shut her down right away? He pointed out, it's been a long time since I've been asked something like this, which reminds you that Steve hasn't been thinking about something like this. Steve isn't perfect, right? He's the peak human, but he's not a perfect human, right? In some ways, that's kind of what Adam Warlock was supposed to be, right? So I love the idea that there's the opportunity for Steve to still recall the thing that made him so great. It's not his muscles, it's not his speed, it's not his ability to throw his mighty shield. It's the idea that he has always strived to be the best and to have other people, to light the candle, light the torch, so to speak, and lead the way for others. I say that because something really bad happens to Steve in this comic book. And I had to stop. Dude, I almost stood up out of my chair in shock at what happened in here. And I'm not going to spoil it for you guys. all right? Because I'm reading this comic book a little bit earlier than you guys. And I'm simply going to say this. Holy crap. Holy crap, you've got to read this comic book. The way that this was done was beautiful. Mind you, when we're on the outside and seeing everything and it's not happening to us in real time, we're just sitting back from the safety of our armchairs or wherever the hell we're sitting and reading these incredible comic books, it's easier for us to act, to be those armchair warriors, right? But when you're in the heat of things and all this crazy stuff is happening, I understand why hotter heads will prevail. This thing leads to a huge fight between Namor and the Human Torch. And they're not coming out of this the same, either of them. I'm going to say this. The time to think about the consequences are not after you've committed the act. It's before. Unfortunately, most people who are hotheads, they consider the consequences afterwards when they're essentially already a foregone conclusion. I was young once too. Still youngish. But I was once a pup. I was once a whelpling. And I've been plenty of times I did something where I'm just like, I should not have freaking done that. Holy crap, what's going to happen now? Because those wheels are in motion. What can you do? And that's pretty much the situation that Namor finds himself in now. It's heartbreaking. And like I said, dude, I am positive that Awesome Android was not trying to kill Eudora. I'm positive that he was trying to save her. I mentioned that in the previous episode, the previous issue, the review. And I fully believe that now because of the way that Hammond here, the Human Torch, was actually treating everybody. It's like, we're misunderstood. You got to understand. Please be cool, bro. Please be cool. You know? And it's funny how, and this is one of the things I love about this, because maybe I'm wrong on this, but we all get from a comic book, we all get from literature what we put into it. Jim Hammond, the Human Torch, the original Human Torch, was talking about how, oh man, check it out. You know, you got you humans, ever since the first sentient machine came about, you've been seeking to enslave us and da-da-da-da-da. And Luke Cage, the black character, says, hey man, I don't like where you're going with this. And you're dead wrong if you think that this is where I'm coming from, all right? You're wrong and pretty damn ignorant. You don't know what you're talking about. That's what he's saying. Meanwhile, isn't that how we always treat the others? Isn't that how we always treat? And it's just human nature. Mind you, a lot of things that people, here's Professor Bill's story time, not story time, but just, life lesson, Confucius says, sometimes things that we view as racism is actually just the biological imperative that we all have to distrust the other until they are no longer the other. We have to make ourselves worthy in the eyes of the others, and they have to do the same for us. It's the same thing. And then we can see value in each other, even if it's an intrinsic value, not just a utilitarian. Otherwise, it's just utilitarian. I can get you to plow my fields. I can get you to guard my harems, whatever it is. But if you start to understand an intrinsic necessity for each other and the idea that we're all human, that we're all one race of humans, that says something different. It really does. But it requires trust. It requires not being seen as the other. Sometimes we just chalk something up to, that's racist. No, it's human nature. Racism has nothing to do with it. Racism is after you realize this person is just as human as I am, but I still denigrate him or her, whatever, because, I'm superior. If you see someone as different, that's one thing. If you see yourself as superior to something else, that's something else entirely. So there's that. Anyway, I love where this comic book went. I really do. I love the idea that so much of this was as simple as, hey man, we're all humans. right? Like whether you're a machine or an Atlantean or whatever, we're all living, we're all sentient, because this was written by a human, right? But little things where you try, like Eudora tried to go a little bit SJW on Captain America. It's like, why do you call Gene Hammond a man when he's not a man? Well, he's an android. That means like, or a cyborg is actually half man, half what. Android is as close to human's image as a robot can be. Well, besides synthezoid, there's that in the Marvel. But technically, Jim Hammond was the original synthezoid. That's the body that the Vision was created after. If you guys ever read the West Coast Avengers, so excuse me, Avengers West Coast. So when he calls him a man, it's, he's like, how come you humans always have to make something like you in order to see them as relevant? It's only by nature that we all do the same thing. That's every single animal species. No animal races. There's no such thing. Every animal species does the exact same thing. Every single one of them. The brown bear doesn't even look at the black bear or the red bear or the white bear and say, oh, we're all bears, right? No. They look at, like, males, the females, they look at each other from a different pack or whatever. And it's like, we got issues, bro. We have issues. And somebody's going to die if you don't recognize that's my scratch marks and my scat, right? This is my territory. We think that we're so bad. You look at pretty much every other race of creature out there, every other species of creature out there. No, we're actually all the same. It's human nature. 2 ant colonies will commit homicide, anticide on each other. It's just the way that things work. And that was touched on so beautifully in this comic book. Even though it's war, and it's more than war, it's pure distrust. Stuff happens. Like, the worst thing, the best thing for the Kree and the worst thing for us is the idea. And Catwell touched on this. He didn't mention this, but I'm realizing right now as I'm speaking to you guys, the worst thing that the Kree could have done for us is the hit and run. If they stayed and tried to occupy, everyone and everything would unite. But no, they hit and they left. And we went up to go after them. We never came back. We don't know what happened to those guys. So now what's left except to sift through the rubble and fight anybody who tries to take the scrap of food? I don't care if it's a week-old dead rat. That can feed my family. I love what this book does with the human element, the plight of all living creatures in this. This is almost like looking at a psychological version of the origin of species. Cantwell does it great in here. The art in this was fantastic also. It's really easy to identify all the characters in here. These aged characters, right? They're very believable. They look just like these. It's like they're not supposed to look like them anymore, technically. Imagine seeing yourself 40 years in the future. Would you honestly recognize yourself? Because you wouldn't even be wearing the same clothes. You wouldn't have the same hairstyle. Probably wouldn't have the same amount of hair. Would you honestly recognize yourself all these years later? Doing those stupid little AI things on your phone. Have somebody take 3 different pictures of somebody of your skin tone, skin color, whatever, and just doop, 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 3 different people, and then come back and show you all 3 of them and ask you which one is you. That would be a fun game to play. I wonder if I should do that. Anyway, right? You don't even know if you'd recognize yourself. So how do you know you're going to be the same person? So I really love what this comic book has done. Guys, I cannot recommend this comic book enough. Now, if you're waiting for the series to be done, that's cool. I'm waiting to pass final judgment once the next issue comes out. I got to wait a whole month for this to come out. That stinks. The only pleasure I gain in this is that I'll probably see the comic book before all of you plebeians do. So, I'm just kidding. You're not plebeians. You're alumni. And alumni, hit the subscribe button and watch a video. And like the video. I never asked you to subscribe. Anyway, guys, I'll talk to you later. Professor Bill, Comic Book University. Class dismissed.